going on, Pels fans? It's another game day for the New Orleans Pelicans. Tonight, the Pelicans will be facing off against the Houston Rockets. I know it kind of seems right now that I'm kind of getting on a little bit early in the broadcast than what we usually do. I have some things I have to, get going on later this afternoon, but I wanted to move the time up, for our podcast and kind of discuss some things with the New Orleans Pelicans as they stand right now, before going into the All-Star break. And right now, the New Orleans Pelicans are on a 3-game losing streak. The Pelicans are really finally starting to end this tough schedule that they've ran into. They lost to some pretty darn good teams. Um, but I'm not going to sit there and use that as the excuse and not talk about how the Pelicans need to really start winning some basketball games and start separating themselves in this Western Conference. I kind of mentioned this the last time I was on here, on the podcast, and talking about the Pelicans. But this is really hitting home now. I think New Orleans Pelicans right now, I said this before, the Pelicans look like one of those teams that are hanging around in that play-in tournament. We do not want to be there. As a Pelicans fan right now, you do not want to be in that 7, 8, 9, 10 area. You do not want to be in that mark. You do not want to be playing in the play-in tournament. You don't want to be playing none of these hungry teams that will sit there and go ahead and knock you out. Because anything can happen, these are one game elimination games. These are not playoff series. So in these one game elimination games, man, this is a dangerous time. The Pelicans don't need to be in that area. So yes, I do know the Pelicans have, like I said, ran into a tough part of their schedule, but this has told me a lot about the Pelicans going forward, as a franchise, and being one of those top tier teams in the Western Conference. They're not ready yet. It's clearly we're clearly seeing it in front of our faces that, against the biggest and best teams right now that's on the top of the Western Conference and even in the Eastern Conference, when we played the Boston Celtics last, we're not ready for these guys, the heavyweights yet. You know. I kind of mentioned before in other podcasts, now that we are actually getting closer to the time now, we can really start talking about this. Come next week is the NBA trade deadline. Um, I think it's time for the Pelicans to make a move, man. The Pelicans need to do something to better them, and to figure out ways to win games in the end. Because let me tell you something: if the Pelicans go ahead and they find themselves in these playoffs and they play one of these good teams that are in the playoffs, man, they're gonna have to find ways to close out games. Okay, we are still seeing the same problems that we have seen earlier in the season with these guys, which they are struggling to go ahead and close out basketball games. They have started out pretty fast, and improved in that. That they found themselves at times in games where they were able to jump out on teams and hold leads for a while, just like what we saw in this past Boston Celtics basketball game. Um, they were able to hold the Celtics the whole game, going into that fourth quarter, and just lost it. Like the fourth quarter is the most important quarter of the game. Okay. Um, that's when you finish strong. And I'm just not seeing the Pelicans lay their will down on teams. They're allowing teams to gain momentum and find ways to get back into basketball games. And part of the reason why it's happening is because their lack of defense. They don't have nobody on defense right now that's closing out on defense. Yes, we can talk about Herbert Jones. Yes, I know. But let's just be honest here, man. Herbert Jones is not a one-man show. You need a big man, okay? You need a center, okay? And let me tell you something. This is no knock against Jonas Valanciunas at all. Love Big Val. He's been the Iron Man of this basketball team for the past 2 or 3 years right now. He showed up. He's been showing up every single game. You would never hear me say anything too much bad about Jonas Valanciunas because he shows up, man. He's gonna do the dirty work for you. He's always there, man. He's always available, man. And no matter what, you know, he's playing the hardest on this team. But we need someone at that center position to play some defensive doggone defense, some blocking around the rim, some more rebounding. We just don't have that on this roster right now, man. Big Val is a great rebounder. He can score in situations that a lot of centers in this league right now can't do right now in closing situations. But what we are lacking right now, I'm starting to see teams putting Big Valanciunas in bad situations where he gets fouled out in many occasions, where he's not able to even play in the game in the most critical situations. So we have to, as a Pelicans franchise, David Griffin, Swing Cash, these people in the front office need to go ahead and Trajan Langdon, like these guys need to figure out at this deadline to get somebody, whether it's a backup, and put some more depth at that center position because we have Larry Nance. Larry Nance, ever since he's returned from that injury he had earlier, the rib injury, he's been playing his butt off all season long. So I've been loving it, but we need more than just that, man. We need something. We either need to go ahead and get a backup center, and add more depth, or we just need to replace Giannis, man. That's just what it is. That's what reality is right now for the Pelicans roster. Um, I've heard rumors that that teams are not willing to go ahead and trade their star power centers like Nick Claxton, like Jarrett Allen. Um, for the Cleveland Cavaliers, like they're not willing to go ahead and trade these guys without giving up a Jonas Valanciunas, without giving up a Dyson Daniels. I'm okay with that. Plus, the Pelicans have good enough draft capital. I'm all about right now, um, as a Pelicans fan, going all in and doing whatever you can to get into these playoffs comfortably, and getting yourselves in position to get in, to move far within these playoffs. Okay, I didn't say championship. I didn't say that because I still want to see what this team can become. But at the same time, too, at the very least, this Pelicans team needs to be at least in the quarterfinals of these playoffs. That's at the very least. So I need to see more from the New Orleans Pelicans front office. I need to see them make moves, man. I need to see something happen because with the roster that we have right now, um, we have weaknesses. Yes, we have a lot of depth. Yes, we got tons of shooting out there. Matt Ryan just returned. He hasn't quite got minutes yet. But he's about to be healthy enough to go ahead and get some run in. Jordan Hawkins has earned his position now, gotten some more minutes, even has stolen a couple of minutes from Jose Alvarado, yeah, which is amazing. Um, Trey Murphy is Trey Murphy, even though he's been in a little slump lately. But and CJ McCollum has been playing his butt off as a veteran leader of this team. But that's not the problem for the Pelicans right now. The Pelicans really need more defense and rebounding. We can outscore any team in this league, in the NBA. We can. There's no team in the league that scares me enough to where I think the Pelicans can't score on them. The Pelicans have proven they can score on anybody. They just scored a lot of points on the Boston Celtics. The problem is that they're having problems playing defense against these teams. They're letting a lot of teams just outscore them. A lot of teams are not afraid of the Pelicans defense. The NBA teams know that the Pelicans have one guy that you can guarantee, and maybe you can go ahead and throw in a Jose Alvarado on the bench, and you could throw in Najee Marshall and everything, and then you could throw in the hustle of Larry Nance. But other than that one name guy, which is Herbert Jones, there's not really nobody on this roster you're really looking at as prime defensive guys in the NBA. So this team does not scare no one defensively, man, and it's a problem. We've been asking more from Zion Williamson rebounding. I mean, it's worked a couple of games, and then it'll go away. He's not consistent enough in his rebounding. Like I said, we got Jonas Valanciunas doing his thing on the boards, but then he gives up so much defensively. So it's like, man, you get one thing, but you're missing another. Then with Larry Nance, Larry Nance is a great hustler, great defensive player and rebounder, but that's all we have depth wise. We don't have nobody back there depth wise. I was had high hopes for Mr. Cody Zeller going into the season. Have not seen even really I have not really seen him have much run this season. Uh, he's a long body. Give him some run. I understand he's not you know, one of the not a Larry Nance or anything like that, or one of these no-name guys or anything like that, but use his body. There's a reason why he's on this basketball team. I just hate that we're putting him in positions where we're only blowing out teams and that he can get run. Like, we don't have enough depth back there to be sitting there yeah, just feeding all minutes to Larry Nance and Jonas Valanciunas, when Jonas Valanciunas is putting himself in a lot of foul trouble, man. Like, I need to see big time changes in the front office for these New Orleans Pelicans, man. Like I said, the NBA trade deadline is coming up very, very soon, next Thursday. Okay, so I'm very interested to see what the Pelicans are going to do with this roster, because we have a lot of trade value. Like I said, we have a lot of depth, we have a lot of draft picks, so we can make a move. But will it be the right move? Will it be the move to turn this team around when it comes to closing out basketball games? Tonight against the Houston Rockets, this is going to be a huge basketball game. Okay, you do not want to be going down on a 4-game losing streak. Okay, this is actually a team that I really felt like when we was going into this stretch of hard games, that I felt like we can get a win. Okay, I know the Houston Rockets give us a lot of trouble. Sangoon over there is gets us a lot of trouble over there in Houston, but we have to find a way to get a win. I also heard today Zion Williamson is questionable today. Okay, he's still dealing with that bone bruise that he gotten over. Okay, so hopefully he'll be available to play tonight. But if not, guys are going to need to step up, because this is a huge game tonight that the Pelicans do not want to lose. They do not want to put themselves back any more than what they have already put themselves back. Okay. They have really putting themselves right in the 8th position. It's not good. It's not good. At one point, before this losing streak happened, we were the 6th seed. Even as far as the 5th seed. And that's what I was talking about earlier in last podcast. I was talking about how, the Pelicans, when they were on a winning streak, it looked good, it looked great at the time and everything. We were beating teams that we were supposed to beat. But this was going to tell it all when we go ahead in the schedule against teams that are on top of the Western Conference, a team like Boston, who's top of the East, that you might even run into if you make it to the championship. You run into the Milwaukee Bucks, another top tier team in the East. like teams like these are where you really gonna find out about yourselves. Like the Pelicans really